Hello and welcome to Türkiye Talks. This week we are going to talk about the recent elections in Turkey. We are going to analyze the results and the reactions. I am joined by Kadir Ustun. Hi Kadir.
Hello Bora, how are you?
Thank you. Finally it's over and I think we will have some time to rest a little bit. For the last couple of weeks we were working very hard, whatever our institutions and other jobs, but everybody, not only in Turkey but also in the region and also in the world in general, focused on these elections because Turkey is located in a very critical part of the world and Turkey is in the middle of many global events, incidents like the Russia-Ukraine war, Eastern Mediterranean, European energy politics, energy security issues, etc. What is your first reaction? How did you evaluate the results? The president won the elections. I think this is his 12th victory against Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. Now he made it again. What is your initial reaction to this?
Of course, for a politician to win elections in a long streak like this, I believe since 1994, President Erdogan has never lost an election he entered at the municipal or national level. If we can also include the constitutional changes, there have been several. He was able to convince the majority of Turkish public opinion to vote for him or for his agenda. So this is no small feat. It is hard to downplay. And when we look at the results specifically, something like 52% of the votes in the second round, he actually, in terms of numbers, he increased his numbers from somewhere like 27 to 27.5 million, something like that. So I need to check the exact numbers, but I believe Kılıçdaroğlu also increased because there was a 5% in the first round that went to Sinan Oğan. But we saw that, this was the same result in 2018. So 52 to 48. I think there is despite all the, economic problems and all the difficulties the country is going through, they have a fundamental trust in President Erdogan. I think that's the bottom line, because when you look at last 5 years, it's as if nothing has changed. He's still got 52%. So that's important to note. Of course, we've talked about the problems with the opposition and how they failed to unite and failed to bring forth a united agenda. And in my opinion, their mobilization and getting the vote out on the election day was very weak compared to AK party's, organizational skills and getting the, experience in getting the vote out. So we can talk about the opposition all day long, but I think President Erdogan once again won an election. It's a story that is just, for a lot of outsiders, I think it is no surprise, I guess. But at the same time, if you follow the Turkish politics closely, you'll see that, especially the opposition was really hopeful this time around things were going to be different. And it didn't. So the opposition has to take a long, hard look at what they've done. I think there's a lot of questions there. We might see, leadership change somewhere on the horizon, although the opposition candidate showed no signs of resigning. But beyond that, what was the other striking thing was, of course, the international reaction to President Erdogan's victory. There wasn't much about good but kind of great but kind of arguments. People acknowledge this success. World leaders called them immediately or sent out tweets and called them. So it turns a new page in Turkish political history. Next 5 years, we have President Erdogan leading the country, and we're probably going to see even a bolder Turkish foreign policy in the years ahead. That's my expectation, because last 5 years, especially since the failed coup attempt in 2016, Turkey has made major impact in the region. We discussed every one of them in detail with you in this show, from Libya to Syria to Azerbaijan to Ukraine, even global issues like climate change and others. So I think we're going to hear more and more about Turkey in the international arena, because that past couple months especially, Turkey has been focusing on domestic politics, but we'll be able to talk a lot more about foreign policy in the months ahead.
Yeah, I think, before we go into details of the international reactions, maybe we should underline the fact that this was the most difficult elections for President Erdogan. As you have said, during the last 5 years, unexpected, very big things happened, big challenges like the pandemic, the COVID-19 issue. It stopped all the economic activity, not only in Turkey, but all around the world. So it was a big challenge how to deal with this. I think President Erdogan proved his ability to manage such a big problem, such a big crisis for humanity. Second, we have seen one of the worst earthquakes in history, very prior to the elections. 11 cities were destroyed. Everybody, the scientists especially, admitted that this is one of the worst natural disasters of our times. So this is one of the challenge. This was one of the challenges. Also, he had to compete with a united front. I don't think this happened before. I remember the 2018 elections. There were several presidential candidates. Parties, they had their own presidential candidates, the E Party, HDP, and others. This time, he has to face a united front. But as you have said, he still got his 52, which is a big success, I believe. So, Turkey is changing, world is changing. So this election also, proved that Turkish democracy is strong. Before the elections, there were very harsh criticisms and portraying Turkey as an autocrat country. Democracy is not working, kind of baseless claims were everywhere in the Western media especially. But the elections went for the second round, and everybody saw that with a great participation, a great turnout, we have these results. From this point of view, I think this was the most difficult elections for President Erdogan. And as you said, world leaders didn't wait to congratulate Erdogan this time. President Biden from the United States, he was very quick to call Erdogan, and he congratulated him, and he gave positive messages. Russian president also called European leaders. So what is your understanding of that? We remember during the 15th of July coup attempt, the United States waited so long to support Turkish democracy. But do you think this is changing now with these elections?
Well, it's too early to tell, but it needs to change. And this is a critical country, like you outlined. Turkey is just a country that you can't ignore. It's involved in so many issues. If you remember, 2019 was a very difficult year for Turkish-American relations. It ended up with the United States, imposing sanctions on Turkey, and that impacted the lira, and some would argue that the effects of that continue today. And then, we had a huge calamity like the COVID-19 crisis, and I think Turkey is a country that managed it one of the best in the world. This is actually not acknowledged often enough. I know that from my family, from close friends, how, diagnosis, treatment, everything was free. And then, we didn't see those catastrophic scenarios that images we saw in the West, even in the United States, in New York. We had at some point, hard to say this, but bodies were piling up in the trucks, and they had to pour like ice on them so that it wouldn't smell. It was a terrible, terrible experience for the entire world. And Turkey, obviously was also impacted and suffered from it, but the government didn't politicize it. Erdogan wore masks. The government's performance in terms of both economic impact of it and social and health implications, they did a good job overall. There were, of course, problems, challenges, maybe mistakes even, but overall the pandemic management was very good, but it impacted the economy. It really placed a huge burden on the economy. Turkish manufacturing never fully stopped, so that was a good. But at the same time, this was a big financial crisis for the entire world. All the countries had to bankroll their economy. They had to, lower the interest rates, and they had to deal with this in a big way. And then, the earthquake, like you mentioned. So when you have all these problems, I think when the opposition was criticizing these and talking about how they could do them better, they failed to understand and acknowledge, what the government was doing in a more global context, in a more international context. Especially with the pandemic, I've seen like social media comments like, "Oh, Turkey has done a terrible job," and etc. You have to always compare it to other countries. So I think one of the problems was the voters weren't convinced that the opposition would do a better job than that, both in terms of earthquake and in terms of the COVID-19. I think while we say things were very, very difficult for Erdogan and this was his toughest election yet, that is true. But, the opposition has to show that they are a serious alternative. They can actually do it better. And they ultimately failed at that. And then, I think the reaction from the international community was good for Turkey, I think, because they put aside, we know that there's like a lot of leaders have a hard time with President Erdogan. They may not like him as much, or they can't communicate with him as well, despite the fact that he's engaged in all platforms around the world, right? In the Turkic world, in the European Union, in NATO, in the Middle East affairs, he's always there, and he's pushing for change, and he's calling for, global cooperation all the time. But at the personal level, many leaders have had their difficult times with him, back and forth. But I find that very useful in terms of turning a new page and engaging Turkey better. For the Europeans, you know, migration, supply chain, Ukraine, security issues in the Eastern Mediterranean, these are very critical issues, and you can't do it without Turkey. You have to engage Turkey as a serious actor in a you know, serious manner. And President Biden's call was interesting. The Turkish, you know, media reported that he acknowledged some of the unfair treatment of President Erdogan by the Western media, Western leadership. If he did that, I don't know for sure, but that would be a very helpful thing, because Turkish-American relations are important not just for the bilateral relationship, but also for NATO as well. And, you know, it touches upon a number of issues. And being in Washington, D.C., we always try to advocate for a better, more rational, less ideological, less confrontational Turkish-American relationship. And I just hope that this, you know, this becomes a new start in that sense. There are obviously serious challenges. You know, the YPG PKK issue is a major challenge, major headache. Now NATO enlargement is a serious obstacle. I mean, like Sweden's inclusion, Washington is pushing for that, and Turkey needs to be reassured about its concerns about PKK. I don't want to make this too long, but I think it's a good start. It just we need to build upon it, and a serious strategic conversation needs to happen between the Western allies and Turkey. And Turkey is going to look out for its national interests. There's no doubt about that. And it's going to balance its relations with Russia as well. Nobody should expect Turkey to cut off relations with Russia or impose sanctions. That would be just detrimental to Turkish economy. But at the same time, more reasonable, more rational engagement with Turkey would be helpful for the region and for the NATO Western alliance as well. Bora, let me ask you a question. I know you're very tired. We've, you know, spoken many times along this process. Things have been crazy. The earthquake was in February, and it feels like ages ago, right? It was only a couple months ago. If you were to identify like one thing that the opposition could have done better, we talked about their problems, but what is it that they really forgot to do? Can you, I mean, you're in the heart of Turkish media. You're running TRT World. You're speaking to the outside world. What is your impression? Like, what really struck you about what happened with the opposition?
Yeah, I have a few things actually. First of all, they underestimated the power of the president in influencing people. Many people have not only they actually love the president. I think this is a very strong feeling, and this is underestimated. So he has emotional ties with a quite big number of people, a big part of the society. So this is underestimated. This is one of the things, because they so personalized the election. So it was downgraded to a race between two personalities. And in that, okay, you have haters, but you have also those who love the president. I think this is one of the things that they underestimated. Second, as you said, you know, earthquake is just months before, so it's not ages ago. But those people there, you know, they lost their loved ones, they lost their homes, businesses, everything, and they need hope. So I think the opposition failed to provide this hope. They forgot about the real issues of those people. I think the opposition focused too much on social media. They focused too much on news that actually people, ordinary people, don't care about much. You know, people in general, especially across Turkey, they care about their daily lives, their children's schools, their well-being. You know, their daily issues matter. But when we look at the campaign of the opposition, I was surprised when, for example, they talk too much about some people, you know, like the former leader of the HDP party who is serving his time in prison. The case of Osman Kavala, for example, the Gezi issue. You know, these problems may have importance for some part of the society, but I don't think masses care about that. You know, it's in the past, so this was a political struggle against the government, and it's done, it's finished. But when you look at social media, when you look at the agenda of the opposition, they talk about that kind of stuff which has no response in the general society. I think these were the things that they underestimated, and they focused too much on social media. You know, the last 2 weeks before the second round, we have seen the president and ministers campaigning in the Quake region. Actually, it was not campaign. They were trying to support these people. They were trying to find ways to make their lives better. But at that time, the opposition leader, he went to some popular YouTube channels to, you know, convince youth, as he said. So I think this was not the right strategy. They were successful enough to bring all the opposition forces together, but I don't think they were successful enough to convince the other side and convince the ordinary people about, I mean, they didn't give hope, actually. This was their main problem. Here, I was, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you which leader surprised you most when they called president to congratulate. I have some candidates for you to make a short list. Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister Mitsotakis, the Greek Prime Minister, Sisi, the Egyptian president, or anybody else?
Well, but it was actually Memorial Day on Monday in Washington, in the United States. So Biden seems to have made a little bit of an extra effort to make that call on Monday rather than Tuesday, normal business day kind of thing. So I think it was, since I'm prejudiced here, biased in terms of Turkish-American relations, that grabbed my attention more. He sent out a tweet on Sunday, I think, on the, you know, after the election. No, was it Monday? Anyway, there was a tweet, and then tweet was on Sunday on the election day, and then I think Blinken also sent out a tweet, and then Biden made the call on Monday on, you know, Memorial Day. So that just tells me there is a recognition that, yes, you know, President Erdogan, this is a great achievement, and we need to talk to him sooner rather than later, especially if, you know, we know that Putin was going to call quick, you know, make that call fast, and then all the leaders that you mentioned. Netanyahu Erdogan dynamic, of course, we know that's been a problematic one, especially when tensions go higher on the Palestinian front. And in recent years, Turkey has managed to kind of put that track Israel relations with Israel on track, let's say, through the Israeli president. That was helpful, but of course there's still Netanyahu as a brand, the name can be polarizing and difficult to deal with. So it was an interesting call, I would say, Netanyahu's call as well. So, but you know, those calls, like I tried to explain earlier, Bora, I think it's just, you know, President Erdogan has been around now for a long time. I don't think these calls by themselves, you know, he's a results-oriented person, and he will want to get results in a number of issues. But it just tells me that the outside world is coming to terms with the fact that President Erdogan is going to be there for the next 5 years, and they need to work with him in a serious manner. If that's the attitude, if that's the meaning of those calls, then that's a plus for Turkey, because, you know, we've seen some of these leaders, like, you know, Macron sent out a tweet in Turkish. In the past, Macron actually tried to sideline Turkey from Eastern Mediterranean issues, and it didn't work. It wasn't going to work anyway. But I think it's after the Ukraine war, given the fact that, you know, Western alliance is going through one of the most challenging times in post-Cold War international relations history, you need Turkey. You need Turkey in a serious way. You need to have serious conversations. Through its own efforts, Turkey managed to get that grain deal done, got it extended several times. It brought Ukrainian and Russian sides early on in the conflict to Istanbul, to Turkey. I think Turkey is going to just keep pushing for that type of dialogue and engagement and diplomacy. You need to support that. You need to, like, of course, Ukraine should be able to defend itself. You should continue your support for Ukraine. But you can also have a track with including Turkey on the diplomatic side, and you can push for that. So there are issues like this, and I just hope the bottom line is, I hope the West especially is recognizing that they need to work with Turkey in a serious manner.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, he also proved that in the last 2 decades, actually, not the type that we know, but he's a diplomat. You know, he has his own style. He convinced many leaders. He has a great experience. When I think about U.S. presidents he worked with, you know, it goes back to George W. Bush, 2 terms, Obama, Trump, now Biden. So he has seen different U.S. presidents. He has worked with Merkel, you know, in Germany, Chirac, Gerhard Schröder. So he joined many NATO summits, maybe more than any leader that we know in NATO right now.
He's become institutional memory of the international relations in the past 2 decades.
Yeah, I mean, he has joined maybe more than any leader to United Nations General Assembly summit, you know, when the leaders General Assembly. So as you said, he knows much better than anybody else in the region. So I think it's good that especially the Western leaders admit and accepted his victory. This is very important because before the elections, we have read a lot of biased articles against Turkey and Turkish democracy and President Erdogan himself, but he couldn't win in the first round. So the elections went to the runoff. So, I mean, with a great turnout, almost 90% in the first and over 80% in the second. So I think President Erdogan, Turkish people, Turkish voters, I hope Turkish opposition prove that and prove that Turkey has a strong democracy. Turkey's democratic credentials are high. So
yeah, you just reminded me again. Thank you for raising that again. You know, people are really, I mean, I was in Turkey for the first round, and you know, people don't understand the system. It's not a very complicated system, but it's a very strong system, the elections in Turkey. And when we looked at the commentary outside, right, the international commentators, without really understanding that system and how things work on the ground, they made these, you know, really, I don't know how to describe it, but really like remarks that were ignorant and remarks that had nothing to do with the reality. Of course, you're going to have mistakes and irregularities. Sometimes you'll have many problems along the way because this is paper-based and people are signing papers and etc. But there are so many, you know, at every ballot there are party representatives of, you know, several different parties. There is officials and then, you know, volunteers, and then, you know, they open the ballot, they count it, they sign it. They have to all sign it without, you know, they have to agree on the numbers first. So the process is very, you know, complex and difficult, but at the same time, it's something that Turkey has been practicing for a very long time. What is the use in kind of trying to create doubt about the system on social media? Is either, you know, ill intent or just ignorance. I hope it's just ignorance, but you know, people need to understand, try to understand that better. And we have no major like contention about the results. Parties have their own numbers, they have their own, you know, they're able to look at the numbers, and there is no major dispute about the results. So what I hope next elections in Turkey, we have a much fairer treatment of this kind of stuff. Even if they may not like President Erdogan, they don't need to raise doubts about the entire thing based on that. But serious political analysis is definitely needed when discussing Turkey outside the country. So,
yeah, well, we will know about the new cabinet soon. I think this week. So next week we will be talking about maybe new foreign minister. I don't know what kind of foreign policy priorities will Turkey have in the next 5 years. So I think we came to the end of this show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bora.
Thank you. Hope to see you next time.
See you.